All your mid clips are the same looking, and then your end clips are just a little bit different looking. Tighten down on this 7/16 ratchet. Don't go, tighten down on it snug,
You know what
hard.
they say? Tight's tight, too tight's broken.
There you go. So there's that. I'm sorry, where was the 7/16?
Thought you had that.
That's right, here it is. R3. Go to R3. So, I am tightening down. Yeah. Another reason why you don't want to use the impact guns is because this is stainless steel, and if you tighten them down real fast, you'll actually produce what's called galling. I believe the bolt is stainless. What's called galling, and it's basically the stainless steel, in essence, welds together, melts and welds together, and then you go to take this bolt, loosen this bolt if you got to make an adjustment on the panel, and then it just twists and breaks off, and then you're one end clip short.
Is there actually torque specs that come with this stuff? Or?
There are, yeah. I mean, you could tighten down fairly tightly on these, but we just use this little guy, and I mean, that's all you need. That's tight. So what usually happens is, I'm there holding the panel. No, you hold the panel. I end up going and getting the panel. The next one, it's a scientific process we have here.
It's your turn. No, it's your turn.
And then we just have
Throw me the wrench.
our two leads from underneath the panel. Positive and negative, male and female. You can't really screw them up underneath. And there's two leads underneath here, you just click them together. I'll show you over here what's going on underneath there. Just this one into there, that one into there. One thing you want to remember is, for some reason you're working on your system, turn it off. Turn it off, because if you go to disconnect these while they're under load, DC will arc pretty bad. I mean, it'll have a nice bright spark from it. When you see those scary movies in the old days, I mean, they use DC because it arcs real nice.
Make it flatter.
Yeah, it makes everybody terrified. So that's what you're looking at. Clicking those two together, your trunk cable should already be connected with this lead here. That, your trunk cable that's running across the top should already be connected. So the next time, your next panel,
You gotta weave.
since we weave the top up here, we want to weave the bottom here. Yeah. The panels are about 40, 45 pounds. They're really not too heavy. Oh, I got some.
Just by having those two end clips on there, it's pretty stable. And if you can
Can I
feel pretty
just
comfortable to let it
show the
go.
weeb?
Sure.
I think I can show the weeb.
Contract is made in
Okay.
These ones right here
I think these are Korea.
Korean.
Korea.
Korea.
These ones, the ones I think you're getting
So,
are made in America or Canada.
I'm not positive which ones we're getting, because it just depends on the market at the time, but I don't know if I mentioned this before, but you're probably $7,500 for a 14, 15 panel system, for those that are interested in doing this. So here we have, you see these little tabs, they just kind of separate the panel, to show you where you should set your panel. You want to lift up a little bit and set it on top of that weave, because otherwise if you go to push it right over, it just crunches and makes a mess, and it gets kind of frustrating. If you get frustrated at this point, don't feel bad about yourself as an installer, because this is one of the most frustrating parts to deal with for us too. Set your panel on there. You want to usually establish the connection with the weave first. If the weave was up there, we'd want to orient that one first. You put your mid clips in here as a spacer.
Well, you try.
All right. Yep. So you get them a little bit snug, just, I mean, basically hand tight. And then this is usually where I'm down here. Billy's got his foot on this rail and leaning on that rail and looking down with his eye across the panels. Because you know, you could just measure off the rail itself and say, okay, we're still 12 inches off the rail, but with that rail, your rail might be going like a snake across the top of your roof, so that's really not an accurate measurement. You really want to keep that eye and look across the top and say, okay, we're still running good with the roof. And then again, too, sometimes your roof line doesn't look the best. It's not, that's why roughly 4 to 6 inches off the top of the roof is nice, because when you're standing on the ground looking at the panels, your panels then become the roof line. And you actually cover the roof line itself and you can't see. And
You can see from these lines pretty well.
yeah, yeah. So that's that. So what do you got to do?
Down like an eighth.
Down an eighth.
Right about there.
And once you're there, tighten down. Make sure you're tight against the clip. And then he holds it, I go get another panel. We set it on here tilted, he clips the leads together, flop it down, and every panel you do, you want to look underneath and make sure your leads, your tails of your wires aren't hanging on the roof at all. Black wire ties. That's pretty much it. Oh, and the other way that we talked last week too, to establish a good line across, or at least a good line of sight, is put a dry line across that top corner and set the farthest panel away and run that dry line across everything, so that way you have a line to bump it up to. It's not perfect, and I think somebody said use a laser level, but you're still going to have that inclination to look at the edge of the panel to make sure it's running true, and that's not the best thing to be staring right at a laser in your eye while you're 30 feet in the air. So
So isn't there a broadband power line box somewhere else in the system to hook it in?
that would be in the, Enphase has an Ethernet setup, and that comes with its own instructions. That's kind of a little bit self-explanatory. That's something you could actually use, just call the customer service. Say, listen, I just installed my system, you know, exactly, walk me through these steps. And what it is you plug an Ethernet cable into your actual router, and that is what monitors your system online. With the Aurora Power One inverters, they also have a little dialog box that's actually wireless, so you can set that anywhere within like 150 feet of your router and just plug that in. And again, those steps are very complicated to try to describe and go through and everything, but that's something that you just say, hey, my first time I installed this, what do I got to do? What buttons do I got to push? Walk me through this, and they're good about that. So
What I've heard about Enphase, and maybe it's not Enphase, but maybe it's a different manufacturer, was that box is really critical to be on the same line rather than some other sub-panel in your AC network.
I'm not positive about that. It's not the actual, that circuit itself that doesn't matter. 'Cause I know usually people just plug it right into the outlet.
Yeah, anywhere. And what I've heard is they've had a lot of problems
Oh, yeah.
because it can't, the broadband over the power line will get interference.
Yeah.
And so it's best to be on that same circuit rather than on some other bridge.
Okay.
Blair, if this is the last panel, this clip is going to be flush with the rail?
If
And
this
is
is
the rail exposed?
the rail will be exposed. They make little end caps. We don't usually bother with them because people can't see the end of your rail from the ground.
But this clip will be over here?
This clip, usually we give ourselves about a ½ inch to start with. And that way, I don't ever like to put that right on the edge because I'm always nervous that something over time might work and that would slip right off. So we give ourselves about ½ inch and then start from there. So we're about 1.5 inches where our panel actually starts. And we'll mark that with a Sharpie and then slide it over and know.
But there are end caps?
Yeah, we wouldn't put this panel on the roof like that. We keep our factory ends on the edge, and then wherever we have to make our splices, we'll run a file across that just to get rid of those burrs. But that's something we had actually cut from a, you know, if we saw we needed, okay, I need a 13-foot piece, we'll cut it 13 foot 2 inches just to make sure we have something to cut straight when it comes time. from the roof, but yeah, we just use abrasive cutoff saw for that. R3 or no? Yeah, all right.
You know, you can use a carbide tip.
Yeah.
Find that is a nice clean cut. You ever did like a 40 tooth carbide tip, a regular circular saw blade?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
As long
yeah.
as they're carbide tooth, they'll cut right through aluminum,
With no problem?
like butter.
Really?
Because for handrails, the vinyl handrails,
Yeah, you don't want
they
to.
have that aluminum sleeve
Yeah.
in them. Zzz, goes right through it like butter. A nice clean square cut. And doesn't leave that as much.
Yeah,
If you're using an abrasive blade, it's gonna.
yeah.
We're kind of running short of
That's what we
time.
normally do, so.
No,
Do
you
have
got, I'm
other
telling
data,
you.
Like the pricing or anything else you wanted to give out?
Pricing, I'm not gonna give you a firm price, but if you could figure on 75, realistically figure on, say, 8 grand. By the time you buy little PC parts, you wanna buy a coil of Romex, you know, like, things like the Romex wire, we're not gonna cut you a 100-foot piece. You know, $7,500 is probably a good number, but if you just keep in your mind 8 grand, that's
For how many panels?
for 14 panels. I
14?
size 14 panels, yeah.
7,500 for 14?
Yeah.
Does that include that, the meter that measures it?
Yeah, that'll include the meter.
250 watt panels.
250 watt panels, there'll be 14 of them, inverters, trunk cable. The only thing you'd have to remember is, say, a junction box for the roof, whatever type of connectors you're bringing the trunk cable in with and the Romex with, your Romex down, and then your copper bond wire.
That's about 3.5 kilowatts.
3.5 kilowatts, yeah. And a ground rod, yeah. That's one thing we didn't mention, I'm sorry. The bond wire that runs across everything, that has to be continuous. That has its own ground rod that goes with it, and then, according to code, that's supposed to be bonded back to your house ground rod as well. So, keep that in mind.
Can't use it, you can't tap right into that, your house ground rod if it's good.
No, because most people don't measure them, and your ground rod is really only supposed to be it's only supposed to last 25 years, according to, time. You know, time is supposed to wear down the ground rod over 25 years, and that's only, so they want a fresh, new ground rod.
And
So
the connection to the ground rod?
it'd just be an acorn clamp that comes with it.
And they can get they can get 7 panels if they
If
want.
they want to get 7 panels, yeah.
So the
figure-
trunk cable is geared for row 7, row 7. If you want to do some other arrangement because of your roof, then the trunk cable may not work.
Trunk cable may not work, we would just have to get longer trunk cable, and with that trunk cable, you know, say you have to stretch over a 3 or 4 foot area without a panel, there's little plugs that go in there. It doesn't matter, you know, you don't have to follow each one, you know, a panel has to be here, a panel has to be here. You can skip one and just have a weatherproof plug for this if you need to run somewhere else. Like, if you're running this row down into the next row and you need a one space in between that you're not gonna be plugging a panel into, then you have a weatherproof plug that you go into that, and it will just cut you an extra 40 inches of the cable.
How much time do you want to give everybody before they should order?
I would say figure out if you want to do this within the next 2 weeks. We'll give you 2 weeks to just think about it, consider it. You know, you might be leaving here saying, no, it's not for me. And then 2 weeks later, you know, kind of get that motivation that, yeah, I want to go out and tackle this. Yeah, just give yourself about 2 weeks, and I don't know, get back to you, Kathy, if they want to do this, or Jocelyn.
Jocelyn?
And my email address is on the website, guys, and if anybody needs the contact information, it's all on our website where you can see me before you go.
We'll give, you know, if you can be back to her within a week, and then we'll still give you that extra week in case for some reason you forget. But by the end of 2 weeks, we'll have a list of people.
Yeah, several people have asked already for site assessments from Gemini, so
Yeah.
we'll try to get everybody in the next week. But
Yeah.
if they need an extra week, it may be.
Yeah, we could push it back a little bit, but
Just because of the holiday.
So when you're ordering panels, you can order 14 or 7, is that the idea?
14 or 7, or if you want to do 21, you know, we'll try to keep it to groups of 7,
Okay.
just for easier figuring.
And you need the money with your order?
I would like the money with the order, that way, for some reason, somebody puts their $500 down, orders a set of panels, and then I gotta sit on them for, you know, because typically a 14 panel system isn't done that often, usually it's a 28 panel system or something larger, so if I got one group of panels, that might be a specific. I got an email, I think from Jocelyn, said $500 down.
I think when you order, when you make the order,
500 down.
500 down,
When it shows up?
and then you pay the rest of it when on delivery, right?
I would like it.
Oh,
to
before
pay
you
for it
order.
before, yeah.
I see.
Because I mean, if we have, you know, say 10 people doing it, there's, yeah, there's a lot of money.
Right.
I mean, we got some money, but come on. But then if you have, you know, my thing is you got a couple people that don't, if somebody for some stupid reason doesn't come pick up theirs, or if they don't pick theirs up for 4 weeks or something, then we're sitting on that in another billing cycle, and we gotta square up with the supply house.
What if your roof doesn't allow multiples of 7?
You can do less panels if you want.
How about 27?
How about 42?
9 times 3, 9 times 3 rows.
Yeah, if you bring in your orientation, I can look at it and say, okay, this is what you're gonna need, and order you what you need.
What are the exact dimensions of the panels you're going to order?
The panels themselves exact, 40 by 65, you can figure on those. These just,
65.
yeah.
Yeah, that's,
There's no set amount. You say you got a chicken coop and you want 2, you can get 2 of them, right?
If you wanna get 2 of them, yeah,
I'm not saying you would, but you could.
yes, if you wanna get 2 of them and go through that, yeah.
and what's the deadline for to get a multiple quantity discount? What's the purpose of the 2-week deadline?
Just so we could order everything together
So you
at
get
the
a-
same time, so that way
you get
that whole
economy.
shipment comes in together. We don't have somebody at our shop all the time, you know, so when a delivery truck comes in, we gotta make sure somebody's there to meet it and meet them and,
So it'll be delivered to your shop,
yeah,
and then we pick it up from there.
yeah. So,
Given the holiday glare, that's what I was asking.
yeah, we
3
can,
weeks.
we could push it back to 3 weeks or something like that. We're not, I mean, as you can see, we're not, too stringent on the times.
One more thing,
since
is
it's
there,
9:15.
I know we're short on time, is there like some sort of a battery system, if you will, that you could just get a couple of panels and keep storing
No, no,
that
not with
energy to
this
use at a
system.
later date?
No, your battery system is the grid. So not this system, batteries not at all, but that's more complex, that's more expensive, that's not a 2-night seminar.
It's not an AC powered system.
You don't want to get into battery systems.
Yeah,
Unless you have to, if you have to.
You got safety issues with batteries.
so, I think, is that it, or?
One more question. Say I don't wanna put on my roof, I wanna put it away from the house, and stuff like that, I wanna make my own, thing. How far can I go away from the house, or from the panel? Cause I know DC, you lose, the farther
Yeah.
away you go, you lose voltage. Now, this is AC.
I would try to keep it under 200 feet,
200 feet.
yeah.
So you have one cord, one continuous cable, no junction.
And if you go more than 200 feet, then instead of 12-3, go 10-3. Yeah. Go 10-3.
With the wire.
Yeah, just up the side of the wire.
But there won't be no drop, like on the DC system, over the
No.
longer you go, other than
You'll have
just
some
up
losses.
the.
As long as
you're
up the side of the
Not like DC.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All good?
Thank you, Blair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.